Sometimes the lighting on this thing is fine. Sometimes it just drives me crazy. Let's see. Don't know what's the best light. I'm making so many dolls that I'm getting tired. So I started this yesterday and then I didn't have time to continue building it today, so I'm gonna have to build ahead. So what I do, I just prepare them each one and then before I continue, it just help me. One. Hi guys, good evening. Welcome to my channel. The most advanced AI video model is now available in every region. No invite code needed. Get incredible realism with fully integrated sound. You keep the frame. Keep me company while I'm crocheting these dolls.
There has been such an imbalance of truth, right, about the origin of Christianity in Africa. Christianity wasn't introduced through slavery, it actually existed centuries before colonialism, centuries prior to that, right? In 2016, for example, some scientists had discovered that the earliest known physical evidence of a church was in sub Saharan Africa, right? Literally, one of the oldest churches was established in the 4th century AD, and this was in Ethiopia. Now, look at the beauty here, because when we're talking about one of the oldest churches in Ethiopia, it gives us an understanding around a lot of supernatural activity that happened that was actually accounted for biblically, connected to the gospel getting to an Ethiopian eunuch. Now, let me just read this with you. So, we're going to read from Acts 8, 26 to 31, and then we're going to jump to 35 to 40. So it starts by saying, now an angel of the Lord said to Philip, rise and go toward the south of the road that goes down from Jerusalem to Gaza. This is a desert place. And he rose and went. And there was an Ethiopian, a eunuch, a court official of Candace, queen of the Ethiopians, who was in charge of all her treasure. So first of all, you have, an angel encounters Philip, and he is sent to meet this Ethiopian eunuch. This Ethiopian eunuch is not just any regular eunuch. He had the trust of the queen. He was in charge of all her treasure. You know that saying about, where your where your heart is, that is where your, in fact, I don't even know the saying right now. Let me customize it. It has to do something about where your treasure is, that is where your heart is. Actually, that's the saying, right? So this woman entrusted all her treasure to this Ethiopian eunuch. That tells you that she had trust in this man. So this Ethiopian eunuch, he not only represented his family, or I mean, well, he was a eunuch, so that goes out the door actually. But he not only represented himself, he actually represented the influence connected to him. This man had the ability to influence. It's safe to assume that he had the ability to influence the queen, to share with the queen what he has known as a conviction for himself. Right? So let's continue. So, who was in charge of all her treasure? He had come to Jerusalem to worship and was returning, seated in his chariot. And he was reading the prophet Isaiah. And the Spirit said, so check this out. First of all, the angel of the Lord encounters Philip. He gives him certain instruction, right? And now, after he follows that instruction, the Holy Spirit comes and backs it up. I mean, look at the reinforcement. Look at the supernatural investment in getting Philip to talk to this Ethiopian eunuch, right? And so it says the Spirit said to Philip, go over and join this chariot. So Philip ran to him and heard him reading Isaiah the prophet and asked, do you understand what you are reading? And he said, how can I unless someone guides me? And he invited Philip to come up and sit with him. Then Philip opened his mouth and beginning, so now I'm jumping to verse 35. Then Philip opened his mouth and beginning with the scripture, he told him the good news about Jesus. This was the whole point.
The way you see an idea, the way you describe it to a friend. This is how website create.
The angel of the Lord, the Holy Spirit, they had reinforcement come together to say, hey Philip, you need to get to this Ethiopian eunuch because you need to share with him the gospel of Jesus. So Philip shares about the good news about Jesus, and as they were going along the road, they came to some water, and the eunuch said, see, here is water. Right? So Philip was sharing the details. Matter of fact, I'm going to come back to this, but let me just
When you come to African spirituality, you come to realize that we are not created beings created and put into life. There's no creator out there in the sky who created human beings. We emerged
Yes,
from
there
life.
it is.
We are emergent beings.
Yes.
The waves emerged from the ocean with the watery and the salty nature of the ocean. And you have emerged from life with the abilities, possibilities of the entire universe.
Peace and riches blessings. I am Michael B. Beckwith, the host of Take Back Your Mind. Peace and blessings. You know who I am, Michael B. Beckwith. And welcome to Take Back Your Mind, the podcast that is about taking your mind back from being hijacked from the world of fear, doubt, and worry. In just a few moments, I'm going to be in conversation with my brother from Accra, Ghana, from the magnificent movement. I'm talking about Ishmael Tete. He's going to be with me in just a moment. And we're going to go right into the life question of the week. Our life question of the week today comes from Tina D, who writes, I've been involved in a lengthy court proceeding with my ex-husband for non-payment of spousal support for the past year. The mounting legal fees and continuing struggle with him have been very difficult.
I pray for him every day and wish him nothing but happiness. But I also feel like I'm being controlled by him because he knows I won't be able to continue paying legal fees without his support. How can I gain the financial freedom I strongly desire? This is a really good question. It reminds me of an individual who came to me for counseling with a very similar circumstance. She came to me and she said, Reverend Michael, you know, my husband left me with children.
Careful.
She's refusing to pay child support, even though the judge already allowed a legal edict to occur that he must pay X amount every month. He hasn't done so. He's creating a financial burden upon me. She told me, I don't want to hear about forgiveness. I don't want to hear. I just want you to help me manifest him paying me the money that he owes me. And I'll always remember this. We prayed. That night she had a dream. And in this dream, she woke up and she was walking down a hallway in her house. And she saw a picture of her ex-husband on the wall.
Yeah.
And in the dream, she took the picture down.
Hmm?
And she put a picture of God. And she woke
It's
up.
not about that. Put your jump out of
She
it.
said, basically, what your subconscious was telling you is that your husband is not the source of your supply. Your husband,
No.
that God is the source of your supply. So you are to go within and come to an awareness that all your needs are to be met directly from the presence. You're not letting your husband off the hook, but you are to come to an understanding that you are not here to shift the external conditions. You are here to expand your awareness. So she began to do that kind of work. To make a long story short, subsequently, she was offered a job that shocked and surprised her, paying her more money than she ever made in her life.
I had actually never built a website before, but Fiverr had exactly what I needed for us to go from idea to market.
Shortly after that, her husband started paying child support. And he started giving her more than was being asked for by the court. So in a short period of time, with the expansion of awareness, she had money coming in from a position that she was occupying as a place of employment, and her husband started paying. So what am I saying to you? Continue to pray for your husband. But now expand your awareness and realize all good is coming directly from the presence. Allow the legal activities to play out and be available to the miraculous, harmonizing prosperity flowing into your life directly from your connection with the presence. Pray for your husband. Forgive your husband. Excuse me. Pray for your former husband. Forgive your former husband. Feel that your need is met, and then watch it unfold in your life. Now, for me, I have a pet peeve in life. One of my pet peeves is men who don't take care of their children. It's kind of a pet peeve for me, and I do my own prayer work around individual men who try to skirt the issue from taking care of their kids. And so we're going to rise up, Tina, and we're going to know that all of your needs are met, and you're going to know that all your needs are met. You're not letting your former husband off the hook, but you're going directly to the presence and have all your needs met. And for any individual that's calling, whether you are a male or a female, and someone owes you something along these lines, you're going directly to the presence. All of my needs are met. Blessing everyone who's suffering and watching the miracle unfold. Have a bright, beautiful, and prosperous day. Peace and blessings, everyone. As you know, I'm Michael B. Beckwith, and today we're inviting you to take back your mind. That is the name of this podcast. To take back your mind that might have been hijacked by worry, doubt, fear, a false sense of separation, a sense of lack of self-worth. We want you to take back your mind so that your heart and your mind are working together with a deep sense of coherence about the possibility of your potential being unleashed. Today, I have with me right here in the studio in person, Brother Ishmael Tete from Accra, Ghana, the founder of the Ethereum mission, I'll tell you a couple of things about him. Renowned African indigenous spiritual leader and mystic whose international presence and message of world peace, listen to this, for over 40 years, has empowered thousands and thousands from Africa and Europe, the U.S., and the globe. Former businessman turned spiritual teacher. It was always within him. He devoted his life to the transformation of human consciousness through the principles and laws of nature, and has developed tools and technologies that show us how to live harmonious lives filled with joy, purpose, and dynamic peace. He founded the Ethereum mission in Accra, Ghana, which now has 3 locations in Ghana and has expanded to the UK with a new location in London for those who are listening from there. His Conscious Humanity Incorporated movement, offering teachings of the Ethereum mission to international community, is based right here in Los Angeles. He's the author of over 30 books, has appeared in films, is featured weekly on Ghana's Crystal TV, and he and his practitioners are showcased 2 days a week on the UK-based radio program, The Hour of Awakening and Empowerment, and Akafu Yu Kazafu Radio. So anyway, we go back, one of the things we were just saying, he asked me this question right before we started. He says, is it normal to feel happy all the time? Or is it normal to feel good all the time? And I said, it might not be normal, but it's natural. He asked me, was it natural? I said, yes, it's natural, but it's not normal for most people. Most people living in anxiety. Now, we've known each other how long now?
From
1996, because that was the 10th year anniversary of Agape.
Right.
And that was an anniversary of you going to the center point.
The 9th year.
The 9th year, that's a number of completion.
Yes.
In which you invited an individual from the West to come to Ghana as support of the work
So we
you were
formed
doing.
Partners for Planetary Liberation.
Yes. Yeah. So we go back a way, but we knew each other instantly. It was not like we had to get to know each other. It was like when I walked into his sanctuary and he was sitting with his practitioners dressed in white, and he said, "Are you the one?" My heart said, "Yes, I'm the one." And we had a beautiful reunion. He asked me a bunch of questions, tested me to see if I was in alignment with the universal spiritual principles that he was teaching. And when he was satisfied with the answers that I gave him, and we've been traveling through the continent of Africa for a few weeks, and our last visit was in Accra, Ghana. He screamed and went out to the sanctuary and said, "He's here!" Give them a little background on that story so they know what I'm talking about.
It was in 1987 when we gathered in Zero Room, latitude 0 and longitude 0 passed through Ghana. So in Meridian Hotel is a room known as Zero Room, where longitude 0 and latitude 0 sorts of meet. So we call it the Zero Room. And we met there to make a decree prayer that we want a ministry like Ethereum mission to be formed in the West, and it should form before us, so that we form Partners for Planetary Liberation. And that was as a result of feeling persecuted by the orthodoxy, where we get ministers from the West coming and preaching hellfire and brimstone, and binding devils and so on. And it looked like I was the only one teaching of an all-loving God whose kingdom embraces everyone, irrespective of your race, creed, or culture. So then, to make a change, we said, let's go and make this prayer in Zero Room so that somebody from the West will also come to validate that, what I'm teaching is right. So we made the prayer in 1987.
Why do we need someone from the West to validate our preaching in Africa that what we're doing is right? Doesn't make sense. We don't need any validation. Thank you.
But then what was really interesting is that when you were coming to Ghana, the tour company said there's no Ministry of Mind Science, because you were asking for that.
Hi, friends.
My church had been employed in that company. But by hearing the conversation, he went to his boss and said, well, in our church, we do something called spiritual mind science. And I then had a pamphlet, 19-page pamphlet, that talks of the science of the mind.
Yes.
So they photocopied it and they faxed it to the group in America. And the group came. It was Friday. I was having a meeting with my inner circle members. We were all dressed in white. When the group showed up at the door, we had them to wait, and I came and I saw you, and I felt I know you.
Yes.
How, I don't know. So I just asked, are you the one we've been praying for? And you said yes. And I wonder whether you understood my language or what I was sharing. So I thought, let everybody else wait, and I called you in to check you out.
Yeah.
Whether you are the one. So I put the questions before you that we are Christians. And you said, that's what we are. I said, we are also Muslims and Hindus. I said, that's what we are. I said, we believe in African traditional and ancestral knowledge. You said, that's what we are. After putting several before you, I put one that I thought will make you go back. I told you, we don't believe in the devil. We believe in the all-loving power presence of God. That is everywhere present. You said, that's what we believe too. And that's when I went out and screamed at the inner circle, he is the one we've been praying for.
Yeah.
So I called some of the practitioners in too. You also called some of the practitioners, including the late Reverend Ivana.
Yeah.
Yes. And we started exchanging testimonies and so on. And you joined us on Sunday in church service. So I started teaching. And about 5 minutes or 10 minutes into the teaching, I don't know how long, I passed the mic on to you. What was magical was you continued seamlessly right where I left, using sentences and phrases that I thought I was the only one in the world that uses those sentences. Oh, loving God, the devil is a miraculous. And it's statements that I thought I was the only one.
Right.
And men and women were crying in the church.
Right.
And in Ghana, when a woman takes the cover cloth, come and cover you, it's a sign of validation.
Yes.
So for the first time, somebody is validating you.
Yeah.
It was magical, electrical.
Yeah, I can feel the energy in my body right now from that. I can remember that Joe Cada was putting the trip together for us. I remember one day she called me and she said, we had this photocopy. No, someone sent a photocopy of something called the Ethereum.
Hi, Anne. Good
And the
evening.
person in the office put it in the
Or
trash.
good
She
morning,
said, no, he's not interested
depending
in
where
this.
you
And I
are.
said, Ethereum?
It's
Yeah, that sounds like my
evening
people.
here in the UK.
Get that photocopy. So they got it and read it to me. I said, that's I want to see them. They're the ones. And so they recovered it, and the rest is the story that he just shared. And do you remember the name of the man who was on the bus with us that worked for the tour company? Because he kept telling us.
James Nyameke.
What's his name?
James Nyameke.
James, yes, I remember. So I remember he was with us when we were praying, and he kept saying, you're going to love the Ethereum mission. He kept saying that all the time. Oh my God, you sound like our teacher. You're going to love the Ethereum mission. And he was correct. That was a very powerful meeting. And as you said, we've been partners ever since for spiritual liberation. We've been involved with assisting in the building of your hospital. We've traveled back there a few times. And then I told a lot of other people, Reverend Eloise, Reverend Deborah Johnson, a number of people that were here on Sunday, and so you became, I remember saying to you, will you come to America?
Your coworker asks you to review a PR, then you find out you didn't even test their changes, you're probably going to be a little upset. This is how it can feel working with coding agents. Cursor's agents can now use a computer to test their changes and record videos of their work.
Yes.
Yeah, it's spread this goodwill around.
And I said, what's for? So you invited me to
Revelation conference.
And when you explained what it was, I said, okay, I'll come.
Yeah.
And I spoke 5 consecutive times in
Yes.
Revelation.
Right.
And that's how we now forming the Partners for Planetary Liberation. So for me, anyone listening to this program, you are part of the sacred work, planetary liberation.
Yes.
So you join us to work together for planetary liberation. And I'll become here
People
since.
are boring.
And the beautiful thing about that, this is the time in human history where the new sexy is collaboration. It's like, in order for us to deal with the impending evolution of the
Witchcraft, a concept associated with black magic, death, destruction, primitivity, and evil. But with more Africans now than ever going back to their roots, the conversation on the demonized subject is taking a rather unexpected turn.
People were asking me, are you a witch? That's because you're going there, or what's so interesting about this?
Professor David G. Mailu, Africa's most published author and scholar of African spirituality, stirred up controversy when he hosted a public lecture on witchcraft at his Mathemboni home in Makueni County.
Colonizers, I saw us as subhumans, savages, who had neither history nor philosophy. They forced us to drop everything in our culture and demanded that we should stop thinking creatively because the quality of our mind had nothing good to think about. We had no religion, no God. We only worshipped idols and ancestral spirits. This is why the colonizers brought religion to us. The colonizers still demanded that we should surrender our way of life because a white man shall be thinking for us, and when we would want to do something, we will have only two options: consulting the white man's brain and the Bible.
Whoa. What's that? I just put the button out on page 24. God. Maybe this goes now. Impossible.
Interesting. Can it generate reports?
I can now.
So you're saying we can all build that?
Yeah.
I'm on lunch. I gotta make some more.
Just built an inventory tracker.
Protein calculator.
Book there and out.
A workflow manager that
Track system loads for the cruise line.
Do these things.
Because no one seems to care.
There's built a
I just created a goal tracking system.
We built the same thing, didn't we?
Yep.
Can this thing manage contact?
I want to animate this graph.
Create a party planner.
Profesor de Español.
An inter-office dating app.
For dogs. For office dogs.
When we hear the word witchcraft, which has been thrown around so many times, and then you are called a witch, and there has been a confusion on with regard to what is actually witchcraft.
The alarming content of his entire lecture caught the attention of different scholars in the scientific community who were part of the audience.
I was Mr. Anami. I was born in a village from Kakamega County, Colomani constituency, and
moving from Christianity to Africanity. It doesn't matter which way we look at it, and whether way we accept it or not, and how we are moving away from colonization, because Christianity really speaks to our spirits being colonized. And so the move from colonization, whether we're moving from Christianity, whether we're moving from Islam and starting to own our own spirituality and our own spiritual journey. And we also have the understanding now as we dig deeper and we, as scholars, to find that the Christian story or the story of the Christ is actually an African story.
well, I beg to differ a bit about that because if you're looking at the Christ, from biblical point of view, using Bible as a history, although the Bible is not a history book, it's a book of faith, purporting to detail the history of a certain group of people, which is the Jews or the Israelites. you find that the men they talk about in the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and
So I'm
John,
joining another
was a Syrian,
doll, like
was a Syrian mystic who spoke Aramaic.
that's what I'm doing. If you're
And now
interested
people will go to the
into
descriptions of
knowing how
the
to do
color
it
of the
step by
skin. That
step,
is, the
just
Bible
have
says
a
skin was
playlist
burnt
with a
like
series
brass.
showing
His
you how
eyes
I
like
do
fuel, his eyes
each
are like flames of fire,
body
how
part,
brownish, therefore these
how
are physical
I crochet
characteristics of
them
a
and how I
person.
put them
But these are the
together.
same physical
So
characteristics of Muammar Gaddafi.
so right
These are the
now
same
I'm
physical
just
characteristics of
making
Saddam
different
of
dolls,
Libya.
and
So
because I
basically,
have
they're
a
darker
market
skinned
sale
people who are not
in
necessarily
April,
African.
so I
Like you
just want
get
to
them
make
in
sure
South
I have
America,
enough
the
stock.
Aztecs, the Olmecs, you get
But
them in
this
South
video is
India,
not
you
from
get
the
them
start, so if you want to know how I
black
started,
Arabs themselves.
just
Some
go
will
and
say
watch that playlist on my
Prophet
channel.
Muhammad's mother was a black Arab.
They are all
Muhammad was
numbers
an Arab.
from 1 to
So
5, I think.
then
So
there is
just go
some
watch
scholars
them.
who say the story of Christ is taken from Osiris from Egypt, and therefore
And I
you
also
see
have an
they
Etsy
even go
shop
to the point
if
of
you
saying
would like to
Karasat
buy
or
instead of
KRST
learning how to crochet it
from
yourself.
hieroglyphics. So this
Just
is
go
the
on my
Christ.
Etsy shop. The link
But on
is
the
also
etymology,
on
the
my bio.
context is
If you
different.
click on it, it will take you
Even
directly
though
to
it
my
was taken
Etsy.
from Egypt, let's say, for interest's sake, it was taken from Kemet. But in Kemet, it was not called Jesus. In Kemet, it was not called Christ. In Kemet, they were not calling Osiris Christ. So some will come up with comparatives, like comparing Osiris, Horus, and Isis, and say is the Trinity, Father, Mother, and Child. But for me, this is a far-fetched. This is far-fetched, and it's also a result of our colonization. That even some of our people, when they are waking up to the African spirit and the African soul, they're still searching for the Christian God in Africa. So they go around and making Christian deities out of the African indigenous gods, so that they continue to fit into the narrative. But also, the African stories of spirituality is not patriarchal. So the biblical God is very patriarchal. Jehovah, and by extension, his son Jesus, is very, very patriarchal story. It's very contradicting African spirituality. Actually, here in Africa, we started worshiping women before we worship men. Before we have male deities, we had feminine creative principles as our goddess. You can go to the Nguni cosmology. They talk about Menzi, which is basically Mdali, which is basically the energy of the universe, which is basically an androgynous force that is neither male or female, or that carries both male and female qualities in it. It's a force, it's not a person, Menzi. But then when Menzi is sent, the first principle is the principle called Ma, or Ninavanu Ma, which is the principle of nourishment, which is mother. And of course, naturally, every child who's born into this earth must have a mother, including Jesus, who might not have earthly father, but he has an earthly mother, because we are born through the womb of the woman. You have to be carried in the womb. You have to be born to earth. So the first goddess that was given to us within our African cosmology is a mother. That is why we refer to this as Mother Earth, Mama Africa. Our language is mother tongue. It's not father tongue. So Father God, Father tongue, it's not our thing. It's white people who come here and invade our land. They say this is their fatherland. That is a dichotomy of South Africa. The whites refer to this land as their fatherland. We call it our motherland. It's our motherland because we were mothered here. We are born here. And it is their father's land. Their fathers conquered it for them. The Jan van Riebeecks and so forth, they did conquer it for them. They're white. They are not born into it, so we were born into it. So now the story is very patriarchal, it's very chauvinistic in the narratives of the Gospels and so forth. So from the cultural practices that is expressed by this spiritual expression, one can see from the beginning that this is a non-African story. Now, when people are trying to fit it into the African story, now they come, and that is why in the Trinity they will say, from Egypt is Osiris, Isis, and Horus, father, mother.
So you're telling me I can straighten my teeth in as little as 4 to 6 months from just £38 a month?
Child, but that's not a conventional Christian doctrine of Trinity. The conventional Christian doctrine of Trinity is Father, Son, Holy Spirit. There's exclusion of the mother. Yes, because that is the patriarchal origin of that. So we basically say these religions, Judaism, Islam, and Christianity, these narratives are created by insecure men to control women. Hence, the first sinner in these stories is a woman. You know, if you go to the Old Testament, the first sinner is Eve. Then Delilah is demonized for cutting Samson's dreadlocks. Basically, she's blamed for Samson's stupidity because Samson had an agreement with God that his strength is in his hair and he must keep that as a secret between him and God. And he decided to reveal his secret to the woman. And then in turn, the woman is the one who shouldered the blame. If you go to the story of Christ, they bring the woman. We caught this woman committing adultery. But adultery is an act that of two people. You know, so you don't see the man in the picture. These people are willing and ready to stone this woman. Some of how Jesus talked to some of these women, like the Samaritan woman, and this other woman, I think she was begging for food, and then he said to the woman, "We don't give what is to the children of Israel to dogs. You don't give that to dogs." And then she said, "But the dogs also eat what fall from the master's table." So now, when you follow the whole narrative, it's very patriarchal, it's very chauvinistic, it's therefore anti-African. That is why in our spiritual tradition, we talk about Thokoza Gogo. We talk about Uma, I just said. We talk about Nomkhubulwane. We talk about Jobela. We talk about feminine creative principles. As I say that in Africa here, in the very evolution of our story, spiritual culture, we were ruled by women. We had a high council of the mothers, which is made up of women above the age of 40. And these women were masters in traditional healing or African mysticism. So these are the same inventors of Ubuntu. Now, if you look at our laws of Ubuntu, their consequences are always mystical or magical. They will say, you must not eat lying down. You ask why. They said, you're going to develop breast from your back. This is Optagati. So our laws, so these mothers,
Give me that white cream on there, that big bottle, so I can rub it on your back.
Because it wasn't designed to
Are you going to bed?
per se. It was designed to bewitch the mind.
Boy, turn around. Take off your jumper.
When the women are
Come on.
sweeping, you mustn't be sitting.
It's gonna be cold.
If they sweep on your legs, you're not gonna be. So the consequences of breaking these laws were always magical or obutakati like. That this will happen and this will happen. So because the only medium that these mothers had to protect the society was Ubutagati, the fear of magic, not actually Ubutagati, but the fear of Ubutagati, or the fear of magical consequences. Mind you, in Africa here we discovered magic before we discovered religion. So that's why most of our African religion are mystical.
Take it back.
We were ruled by the Nyangas first. Our first rulers were healers. So in other tradition, probably their first rulers were priests and Melchizedek. So for
What's
here,
that?
our first rulers were great mothers who were traditional healers, who were people who were communicating with nature, herbs, and everything. So today they say South Africa has the most beautiful constitution in the world, or the most advanced constitution in the world. But what protects this constitution? It is the NPA, it is the civil societies, it's the political parties, it's constitutional court, it's a whole lot of things that protect this. Now, what was used to protect the constitution of the mothers of the nation, which is Ubuntu? So they had no army, they had no MPA, no civil society, no political parties to protect their rules and their laws and the high laws of the Bantu. Now, the only medium they had to protect this was a fear of magic, the fear of, if I don't do this, the consequences will be like this. If you do this, it's going to rain during your wedding day. So all of these things. Now, what will connect this with the rain? It's magic. So this magic was kept in our mind. So they bewitched our mind first to make us obey. They did not use the gun and the jail to make us fall in line. Hence in Africa we never had jails. When we lock up people, the only people who will be locked up somewhere will be zombies. So we never had jails, we never had old age homes for the elderly people. So we never had these institutions to keep the people in line.
we had the word of the mothers of the nation. So fundamental origin of our spirituality is feminine. So any religion that demonizes women, it is not our own.
When I came from the angle about Christianity being African based, it was coming from the Hermetic teachings about Isis, Osiris, and him. You know, it was about that from that angle, and that is why we actually having this conversation.
So you can see I'm building
I was going to spread
the
it
little
to
pants there, and then I'm gonna build the layer, the color of the dress. This doll is gonna have a yellow dress matching her yellow shoes. This one, I wanted her dress to be blue, but then I changed my mind, so she's gonna have an orange dress with blue shoes. And then I have this one here with a green dress and green shoes. And I have many ones that already finished here.
Curious about what roles
Yeah,
there are.
you can take a look. I have different shorts, I have videos, I have my TikTok, my Etsy shop. I'm also on TikTok, but my TikTok is called Malika Dolls, and I also have a TikTok shop also. So Malika Dolls, if you search me on TikTok.
Great opportunity to learn about the roles that are available.
I really like all the practical side of it. There's a lot of you're going to be handling cameras practically every day, and you're going to be asking you to write scripts.
We can safely assume and know that our people used to live and roam and where they actually could, and it was determined where there was water, where there was food together. Yes, so that was the nature of our lives. But now, with where we find ourselves after colonization, we actually, and after Christianization, mainly for us, this end of the continent, we're struggling to actually find ourselves. The identity crisis is actually so big that anything that smells Africa, we're latching onto. Anything that can tell a story different from the Christian story, we're latching onto as ours, And when I say ours and not ours, I'm speaking about us learning. We're moving from Christianity, and the two popular spiritual lifestyles now is Bungoma, and I see the Egyptian philosophy actually just really catching on, and I know why as well, why it is catching on, because we were actually really instrumental in that movement, making sure in just trying to avert the identity crisis and also presenting an option to Bungoma, because now people are thinking that the way to go to African spirituality is through Bungoma. So we were presenting another one, that here is another one that speaks of a documented history, whereas Bungoma is not documented, whereas Story Sesinfu is also not documented. So it's a way of, we need to be able to bring about and show and educate on the different aspects of spirituality that existed down here. I'm going to, after having said that, I want to speak about the Rastafarianism, because even in our heads, we view it as coming all the way from Ethiopia, and so I need you to actually educate us on that, and where it came from, why you subscribe to it, and also let's start with where it came from, and then we're going to go into also the principles of it. And what I loved also was the fact that you went into patriarchy, because I was actually going to bring that up, because it's a big thing, it's a big matter, and it's a big matter that hinders our spirituality.
Well, it is true what you're saying, that in moving away, and we need to clarify these things, that and this is a challenge I'm also having in the interfaith space, that whenever they say African traditional religion, they bring in Abu Gogo to come and perform rituals. And but African spirituality, it is not only Abu Gogo. Abu Gogo, they are just one of the specialists in African spirituality. There are several specialists. You have African
African traditional religion practitioners who are not necessarily traditional healers. Like you have the Ingolo Kantu Institute in the Eastern Cape, Tamako Institute of Dr. Nobuzolomdende. You have Professor Mokwachari in Limpopo. These are African traditional religion advocates or African spirituality advocates who are not necessarily traditional healers. I subscribe to African spirituality. How I pray, different from how the mainstream Rastafari prayer used the ancient Basutu prayers, where I learned that there are certain prayers of rainmakers. There are certain prayers that deals with infertility. There are prayers that deal with the ancestors, to appease to the ancestors without necessarily slaughtering an animal and so forth. So basically, there's still a third dimension that needs to be brought in, that is between Kemet and Nobungoma, which is African, which is the part which I'm basically advocating, the part that I'm teaching within my own institute and so forth. You don't, not everybody need to twasa, atwasela idlozi. Not everybody need to twasa to become a traditional healer. You know, we twasa for many things, including our own awakening, our African awakening. So that we demystify the whole thing, because now with that we're also bringing another stereotyping of that. Okay, if you're not a Christian, then you must be twasa.
Yes, we are closer.
Oh, we are closer.
Yes.
Yes, go. So now we need to clarify that, because there are many expressions of African spirituality. You have Rogabula, which is an African, what you call an indigenous priest, whose job is to Ubonga is giving his Tagazelo Sezu, he's speaking to the heavens. So this is the realm of cosmologians, not theologians. So we're basically cosmologians. We speak to the cosmos, because we Africans are cosmologians, are not theologians. We don't agree.
Need a UGC video for your business? Find me and many other skilled creators on Fiverr. Or you could grab a top camera, add good light.
Script, except what they are attempting to do with the Egyptian Book of the Dead, which is not also an African Bible, contrary to popular beliefs that people think, okay, we had an older Bible called the Egyptian Book of the Dead. No, the Egyptian Book of the Dead was put together in 1886 by white guy, which is basically the collection of scripts, funerary text, the papyri, that when people are being buried, there's always a papyri of Seti, papyri of Unefa, and so forth, different papyri. So they compiled them together and then came up with what they call the Egyptian Book of the Dead. But it is not a book that the Africans gathered spiritually like what people do in the church, and they started to read verses and chapters from the Egyptian Book of the Dead. But this is where papyri of text that whenever you are funerary text, actually, whenever you are being buried, they accompany you. So that when you then reach to the throne of Osiris, to the judgment scales, where they are going to weigh your heart with the feather, they also read your deeds. So it is actually the text where your deeds are written, the papyri where your deeds are written from. So ours is an oral tradition, mouth to ears, which you had different fraternities that deal with the storytellers, the keepers of Umlandu, you know, the custodians of history. And then the oral
Now I'm
tradition,
adding
in West Africa, you'll get the griots.
the dress color for the bodice, so it's going to be yellow, so that's how I add it. I've done the pants, so you can see here you have the pants, you have the color of the dress, how the dress is going to be, and on this finished one you can see you have the pants there, and then I'll build this dress skirt, ruffle skirt on top of it later, and then this is the bodice and then the shirt. So it's like a process. So you start, I had the legs separate, I joined them at the pants, and then I'm gonna build the bodice, and then at some point I'm also gonna add the arms. So you don't actually build it like all at once. You make the separate parts, then you join them together gradually. And again, I made a series of videos on my channel. There's a playlist. Please go watch them and follow all steps. And yeah, practice how to crochet your own dolls. I learned myself. I'm a self-taught, so I just teach you what I know. I'm not an expert. It's only been a year since I learned how to crochet dolls. Well, how to crochet black dolls, because I only crochet black African dolls with afro hair, to empower our children to have toys, dolls that looks like them and with a hair texture that actually represent their own hair texture. So that's why I only crochet African black dolls.
Dealing with African spirituality without necessarily going Kemet, because Kemet is not the total summary of all that is as far as African spirituality is concerned. We cannot move from Christianity to Kemet without even understanding what other options there are. The identity crisis is really a big deal. Yes. Because to decolonize our spirit, we need to understand the different where we actually come in, where our people came from, where the stories, as you put it, and the stories are really important in that those other things are the reason is because all those other things are going to die out if we keep focusing on one thing. We leave the one to focus on another. We leave all of our other expressions to die, and this is our sole responsibility as the custodians. We are custodians because we are here. We have found that spirit has led us to the different places that it has led us. You are where you are, I am where I am, and you are working and doing exactly the same thing, and that is why we need to take on that responsibility to actually make sure that when we move on, when we pass on, we have left our children, we have left the community knowing that they are knowing of our spirituality, so that when they go out there and they're looking to find themselves, we're not only identifying as what our colonizer brought to us, we're not only identifying as also the things that we are being taught, or the things that are just out there. We need to identify.
I only have 7 minutes left of this live. I come every day, every other day, and I do 1 hour live. So I'll be leaving shortly. I'll be back tomorrow. But yeah,
Seems to actually feel
either to finish this one or start another one.
African spirituality expressions. It keeps coming up. It comes up in the people that are interested in Africanism or Africanity actually find that their pathway will lead them through Rastafari at some point, and it will lead them to. And that's another thing that we are really finding is that we dabble and we dabble and we dabble. We do not commit, and not that there's anything wrong with that actually, but the dabbling means that we get to learn bits and pieces of, but we do not get the totality of it. We do not get to experience it. We are just on the move, and we need to take on things not only as scholars as well. It's not the responsibility of scholars as well. It's the responsibility of people that need to grow spiritually, that need to be decolonized. Rastafari is a response to colonialism and slavery. Rastafari, it is based on the Ethiopian king. His name is Rastafari. He was called Rastafari. He's born Tafari Makonnen. And then he became Lich Tafari. It's a royal title as a child, born in the royal family, which basically means royal son. And then he became Dijas Mag Tafari, which is another title, which is basically commander or the keeper of the door. And then he get Ras Tafari, which is head.
head of an army, and so forth. Rastafari, and then he became Negus Tafari, which is King Tafari. Negus is Amharic, which is Ethiopic word for king. Negus, Negus. And then in 1930, he was crowned Emperor Haile Selassie. Now, Haile Selassie is a name he was given at the age of 40 days, where the Ethiopian children through the Ethiopian Orthodox Church. When they are born, the male child at the age of 40 days must get their baptismal name. And then the female at the 80 days, they get their baptismal name. So he used his baptismal name, which is Haile Selassie, which means powerful Trinity. He used his baptismal name to as his regnal name, the name that is going to now rule with it, that he was given from the age of 40. Now, the Rastafari movement was then exploded or heralded in Jamaica from former slaves, Africans who were taken as slaves or stolen from the continent here and taken into slavery, which Jamaica was a big sugar plantation. So you will say it's a spiritual culture that was developed among former slaves from the plantation. Now, what they did, most of them around that time, there were this African awakening that we are going through. Then there was this script they wrote, they called the Holy PB, or the Black Man's Bible. Again, trying to move away from the White Man's Bible. And then they come up with another one, the Parchment Scroll of Black Supremacy. This was a time now they were talking about Ethiopia is the only place in Africa that was never colonized. And then they were talking about prophecies of the Messiah will come out of Ethiopia. Now, when Rastafari was crowned, these elders, these forefathers of the movement, Leonard Howell, Archibald Dunkley, Robert Hines, and Joseph Nathaniel Hebert, they came out and said, the crowning of Rastafari, Haile Selassie, is a fulfillment of a prophecy of the coming Messiah. That now the Ethiopian royal family have certain title from the days of King Solomon, when the Queen of Ethiopia, the Queen of Sheba, went to meet with King Solomon. And then the son of that union became the first Solomonic king of Ethiopia. So they carry the titles of the kings of Israel, King of Kings, Lords of Lords, conquering Lion of the tribe of Judah. So now when Rastafari was crowned in 1930 with all these titles, King of Kings, Lord of Lords, conquering Lion of Judah, his name means powerful Trinity. Trinity is God, Father, Son, Holy Spirit. And he is a man whose name literally means powerful God, if you interpret it that way. And then they had this interpretation of the name Rastafari to mean Ras is head, Tafari means creator. And therefore Rastafari means head creator. So therefore they said, this is the God we waited for, the head creator. Although Rastafari is a head to be feared, the dreaded one, the feared one. But then their limited understanding of Amharic then they knew Tafari to mean creator instead of one to be feared. For you to get a creator, it will be Fatari, like favorite. This is like in case the original language. So they then said, this man, whose name means head creator, powerful God, or powerful Trinity, King of Kings, Lord of Lords, this is the prophesied Messiah that the book of Revelation 5 talk about, that certain script in the Bible talk about. So these then intertwined an African rebellious spirit that was rebelling and revolting and responding to colonialism and slavery, using the Bible to rationalize this God-King concept. But the concept of the God-King is not biblical. It's actually as old as Africa. The king of Babedi, our king, when the missionaries came there, and then they tell them to convert the people to Jesus Kwati. Khosi Kwati said, Khosi ke Modimo wa lefatshe. The king is the God of the earth. The pharaohs.
Domino's delivers hot and fresh in 25 minutes on average.
Order now.
Were god kings. The Kabakas in the Great Lakes in Uganda, mainly our kings were seen as the representation of the heavens, like the Zulu, Shaka of the heavens, Shaka Zulu. They believe that he comes from the heavens. He's a child of prophecy. He was born in the month of Ntuligasi, which is July. So therefore he was prophesied that there would be one sent by the heavens. There's some clips lately going around that were taken from this Shaka Zulu movie that was made in the 80s. There is a conversation between Shaka and the missionaries. And Shaka said Jesus had to die so that the heavens must pass the power to him. And here KwaZulu, the only king of kings is Shaka, not Jesus. You understand? So there's always been that thing that our kings are divine rulers, are divine kingship. So the idea, therefore, of Rastafari, who is Haile Selassie, who is then the movement is named after, it brought in this idea of the God
Right,
King.
guys, I've reached my 1 hour.
Is God,
I'm gonna have to stop this live right now, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for watching. And please, if you're interested in learning how to crochet your own dolls, I have a playlist on my channel. It's called Learn How to Crochet Your Own Doll, and you have different videos, about 5 or 6 videos teaching you step by step how to crochet your own dolls. If you're interested in purchasing the dolls, I have a link there to my Etsy shop. You can also find me on TikTok. It's called Malaika Dolls. Malaika MALLIKA, and then dolls. I'm on TikTok, and I also have a TikTok shop. So yeah, so I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thank you so much for watching, and yeah, I'll see you tomorrow evening.
So then came up until to our time.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Where we bring in our African